Hey, this is Evan Power. Welcome to the latest episode of Power Play. Today we have Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins. Jay was a Green Beret, he became a state senator, and now he's our Lieutenant Governor. We're going to have a great conversation today talking about his service in the military, his service in the Senate, issues like immigration that are facing our state, and where we go now in the conservative movement in Florida. I hope you enjoyed this great conversation. Well, Governor, thank you for joining us here today. Our audience is REC members and people across the state that care about policy. You know, one of the first questions is you're new in this new role. That's right. Can you tell us about your service in the military before you got into public service?
Sure. No, Evan, thank you. Great to be here. It's a great opportunity to talk about the things that we really care about, our Republican values. So let's talk about the military. Politics wasn't the dream. I thought I was going to be a Green Beret, and that was my dream. That's how I was going to give back to the world, and that's really what I wanted to be. But I joined the military. I'm not going to say they lied. My recruiters. I thought I was going to be James Bond. I was not James Bond. I was an intel analyst. True story. I sat in a box in the middle of these communities and these countries, and we talked strategy and operations and tactical overlay. It was the best thing that could have ever happened. It taught me strategy and the overlying and underlying problems simultaneously. Eventually, I got to go to this place called Fort Bragg. It's all things jumping out of airplanes. Gravity works. It's pretty incredible, right? The home of the 82nd Airborne Division, 7th Special Forces group at the time, 3rd Group, and USASOC. Volunteered to become a Green Beret. Went to selection. Got to test a few things. Got to get shot. Was blown up. Both of those are highly, highly overrated. It wasn't really great at the time, but it's a great story now, right? Good for me. And, when I got shot, I had this unique opportunity. I got to do surgery on myself. We opened up my arm, did a 2-compartment fasciotomy. Brief swell now, right? Yeah. Like it's a thing. Yeah. Sucked at the time, man. It was horrible, right? Later on that same trip, I got to get hit by a mortar, when they tried to overrun a fire base.
It's a great trip.
It was, yeah. It's Condé Nast, right? Like this is the best places to travel in the world. It was amazing. And, but you know what you do when you're fighting for your life? You get up and fight. It's simple. So we did that. Got up, fought, and a few months later, got back to Fort Bragg, and I volunteered for more. Eventually, I got to a special missions unit in Fort Bragg to make video games about, and it finally put me on the path to figure out what had happened when I got hit by a mortar. I had fallen about 20-ish feet. I had broken some bones in my upper back, blown out a bunch of lower discs, and what we found out later is it blew holes in my middle ear and inner ear. It jacked up the lymphatic system in my left leg, the arterial and venous flow in my left leg. By the time they cut my leg off in January of 2014, the hair had fallen out, the toenails had fallen out, the skin was blue, and it was basically a dead stick. I was in a brace up to my hip every day. 1 year after that, I requalified as a Green Beret, because anything valuable in life, it's not given, it's earned. You got to work for things. That's how our country works. I spent 5 years in after I lost my leg because someone said it couldn't be done. We proved it. And now there are one-legged Green Berets all across the planet because we proved the point. I was at 18 years of service. I said, you're too old. It's too hard. The hills are too tall. Just give me a chance. Let me prove it. That's how our country works. That is why it matters.
That's awesome. And I saw a video recently, you got on a rope and got out.
I did.
Pretty quickly. You're pretty spry.
Well, you know what? I was a little slow coming out of the door. It was. The rope got caught on my prosthetic leg because rubber feet aren't always easy, right? Yeah. So we had to kick it off there. I'm so glad there was no camera there. Oh my goodness, right? How embarrassing. So I was a little behind. I had to catch up. So I sped up, grabbed the rope, braked at the bottom. It all worked out. My leg didn't fall off either, so big win, right?
Well, the video works. So
yeah,
good.
There you go.
After your military service, what made you decide that you wanted to run for office and get involved in public service?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Evan. So I didn't go right from the military into public service. I went to the nonprofit sector. I ran a bike to cross America like Johnny Appleseed with brisket, 3,000 miles in 50 days. We call it the Breaking Bread Tour. Ultimately, I wanted to go see people for who they were, how they were, where they were. And we fed 100,000 people hot meals in that time, from Skid Row in LA all the way to Florida and back into Tampa. And, it was pretty interesting. From that point, we fed millions of meals after disaster. We did camps and events all across the nation, over 170 a year, plus our camp, which was 10 to 15 camps a year. And what I saw was people crave leadership. They crave people and leaders that are willing to step in and understand the problem and stop the BS. But when COVID happened and Afghanistan happened, that was the final straw for me. COVID, we saw bad government. We saw government overreach. We saw individual freedoms and rights demolished. One person stood. Governor DeSantis stood alone. He was attacked by multiple nations, people across our nation, people right here in Florida were questioning, what are you doing? And he stood because he said, this doesn't make sense. If somebody ever tells you that one person can't make a difference, there's Exhibit A, right?
Right.
One man didn't just save our state. He saved the nation. The nation saved the world because we changed everything. It was incredible. And Afghanistan was tough. You know, we spent 2 decades fighting abroad, defending what we love. You know, I always phrase it, I was willing to die in a nation that wasn't mine, fighting beside people I didn't know, to protect and preserve all that I love right here at home. So that matters. And I had to ask myself, why wouldn't I do all that I could right here at home to do the same? You see, when you get calls from interpreters and people you fought beside because you promised them that have faith in America, will stand beside you, and they call and they're being executed, their family are being killed, person by person, home by home, generation by generation, it's a lot. It is. Yeah. We made a promise. We didn't live up to it. But more importantly, and I think decidedly, we didn't follow what our founding fathers intended, and we certainly weren't protecting and preserving this nation for our children. Everywhere you go in the world, it was made less safe because of the Biden failures. The entire world caved. And if we, as the United States of America, fail to stand for who we are, the world falls apart. That's why peace through strength and President Trump is such an incredible approach. It truly is, because it's exactly how you do this. They're not our wars to fight, but FAFO matters, right?
Right.
You've got to come with that big stick. And that led me into politics. Eventually, I decided, you know what? I can't sit in the sideline. I just can't. I've got to do something. And I started cold calling members of Congress. True story. And started calling people up in D.C. And eventually I had a campaign. I ran for Congress, made the young guns, made all of these hallmarks. I would have been in Congress had we not redistricted. But I fully supported what happened because it got us to where we are. It put us in a position for you to take us to 1.35 million to 2 million. 2 million is the goal, right?
Right.
That's what we talk about, right? Voter advantage.
Yeah.
That relentless approach matters. Florida is the conservative proving grounds of America. Everything that we do with President Trump, most of it we did right here. And what a blessing to be a part of it.
And without redistricting, people don't realize we wouldn't have a majority in Congress right now.
100%.
Because those Florida seats mattered, especially now that we're down to 3 or 4 seats.
That's right. That's right.
So it's important.
Florida stood.
And you talked about the failures of the Biden administration, which led to kind of the Israel problem and letting Hamas lead attacks. Tell us about your experience of getting families out of Israel after some of the most recent attacks.
So, you know, I've been shot at by a lot of things, Evan. I've been shot by a thing, right? Like it's a whole part of my life. You know, when October 7th happened, it was something that we had never seen in terms of the violence coming across into Israel in an attack from Hamas. But for those of us who travel in the military, that wasn't the first time I've seen that brutality. That is part and parcel for how this war was fought. The amount of times I've seen that stuff happen directly in front of me, where I've walked into a village or a community and seen those exact things, it's heartbreaking. So when October 7th happened, we had connections, we had friends, we brought them all together to bring some people home. But when the 12-day war happened, I was getting calls from UF students, FSU, USF, people from around the state. And pretty soon, more and more and more people got my number and started calling. There were moms and dads frenetic because our kids are trapped there and ballistic missiles are flying. We don't know what's going to happen. They just needed someone to do that. So I called some friends, and the day before Father's Day, I sat down with my wife and my kids and I was like, guys, I know you did a lot. I know you have a plan, and I am so sorry. But I wouldn't be much of a dad. I wouldn't be much of a father if I could go save American lives, go save Floridian lives by going abroad and bringing them home, and I didn't do it. I wouldn't be able to be someone who you should respect or could respect if I failed to protect our people when I had that opportunity. So we loaded up on a plane, went from Cyprus to Jordan. From Jordan, we rented a car and went backwards through a system to the Sheikh Hussein border crossing. And from there, we crossed into Israel, and we started dispersing out and building a network to pick up American citizens. And we did it again and again and again and again. We brought them from Israel to Jordan, from Jordan to Cyprus into Tampa. It was fantastic. You know, one of the most moving things I've ever seen, it was two examples on that. When ballistic missiles were hitting, we had them hit within a few hundred feet of us. You know, I've been shot by many things, but ballistic missile, it's pretty unique, man. It's a big boom. There's pieces of concrete flying that, you know, are the size of cars, right? Like it's a thing. And when we loaded on the plane, you could just see the tension. People assumed something was going to happen. They were going to stop us. The Jordanians were going to play a game. Jordan blocks missiles. They do a lot to protect Israel's flank, and they weren't working against them. When we took off, you could see the tension released. It was amazing. You saw people streaming and crying. It was incredible to see the emotion because they felt safe. But when we touched down in America, you saw this raw emotion, people who thought they were going to die and just wanted to come home. They wanted to see their moms. They wanted to see their children. The raw emotion just breaking down, so grateful to come back to this nation. That is such an important thing because I think when you get past all of the BS that sometimes politics puts us in, right?
Right.
And I say that as a big R conservative, right? Deep R Republican. You can get past it if you touch people and reach people for who they are, how they are, where they are, because there are things that just blow beyond that.
Hey, this is Chairman Evan Power. I hope you're enjoying this conversation with Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins. Please comment below to let us know which Florida leader you'd like to hear from next on Power Play.
We all have shared values as Americans. We were all raised in this history, and you have to get beyond the moment of the day or issue of the day and look at what we all share.
That's right. That's right.
Beyond just those issues, let's talk about when you were in the Florida Senate. What were the most important legislative achievements you think you achieved when you were in the Florida Senate?
You know, Evan, that's a great question. So when I was in the Senate, I didn't try to do it the way anybody else had done it. You can't be successful if you're not yourself, right? When I showed up, I didn't know how to file a bill mechanically. I didn't even know where to park, to be honest with you. I was like, all right, guys, come on. Kind of new here. Give me a break, right? A little cue card or something. We figured that out pretty quick. I filed a lot of bills. We passed over 50 bills in 3 years. That's more than many passed in their lifetime in 8 years. The very first bill I did was constitutional carry. Guns matter. It is an inherent right to protect our families. The right to bear arms is black and white in my mind. Our Constitution defines it. To get to carry that bill for my very first one, knowing full well that you're not going to make everybody happy. Right. Not the conservatives, certainly not the liberals. We got death threats from the left. We made people angry because we couldn't get open carry at the time. We could not. It wasn't because we didn't try. We got in shouting matches across tables and desks. Mind you, I've been there for 8 seconds. Right? And they're like, who is this guy? Right? What are you doing? Well, I'm fighting for what matters. Right. You know, we blocked China from buying our land and other countries of concern. We codified prayer in sports, which was incredibly meaningful. One of the things we don't talk about enough is the energy policy bill to set us up for small modular reactors, to remove all of the Biden and the early Biden and Obama era nonsense that pushed this green energy concept that, frankly, was hamstringing us as a state. You know, affordable, repeatable, safe energy is all we have to do. I say this as a guy with 10 fingers and 5 toes. Math wins.
Fair. Good point. So you also had the honor of being picked as our lieutenant governor, Governor DeSantis. Tell us what that experience was like and what's the most surprising part about being lieutenant governor?
Well, you know, it's pretty surreal, Evan. It really is. I've talked about where I came from in the military, but before that, I was born to a 16-year-old kid. She got into drugs and alcohol. I grew up in a trailer, adopted by my grandparents. I'm a son of a failed farmer. We lost our generational family farm coming out of the 70s into the 80s because the economy was horrible. We just couldn't sustain. I joined the military after a couple years in college because I wasn't going to be in the NFL, right? I mean, stark reality at the time, right? Not fast enough, tall enough, or good enough. It was obvious, right? And, you know, it put me on a path where I got knocked down a lot. Resiliency and courage to continue that fight matter. If you had told me 5 years ago I'd be the lieutenant governor, I would have laughed at you. 10 years ago that I'd even be in politics, I probably would have done more than that, frankly, right? But, you know, only in a nation like America, the United States of America, can someone like me be in a position as the 21st Lieutenant Governor to serve 23.5 million people. You know, God's plan is amazing. I wanted to be a Green Beret on that ragged edge of freedom. That's all I wanted to be. I wanted to fight wars for our people abroad that nobody knew about. But God's plan was bigger. He had me here. He had me get injured, lose what I was good at, what made me exceptional, I thought. And he taught me to use skills, to accept help, to get up and use a voice, to train my voice, to lead in a different way. It's a blessing, and it's something I never take for granted. We get to serve 23.5 million people. I wake up every day with that profound reality, and I am so blessed to be a part of it.
And people don't realize how big Florida is when you think about it. It's 23 million people. It's the 15th largest economy in the world.
Yep.
I mean, Florida's a big place, and you've been traveling a lot. So you learn that there's a lot of Florida. People are like, they paved the entire state. Well, you've not been to the heartland. You've not been to other places.
That's right.
What are you finding as you travel the state? What issues do people care about out there?
You know, what I love is just the breakdown of the different parts of Florida. You have urban sprawl, right? You have deep, refined, amazing cities, great food, great community, right? You have the deep Hispanic ties down in Miami and Tampa. You know, I like to keep a sandwich. That's a Tampa thing first,
yeah,
right?
of course.
Just throwing it out there. I love my Miami guys. We'll just keep arguing about this. But, you know, when you go to the Heartland area, right, and you go out there to the strawberry fields, and you go to Big Bend and you see the farmers, you talk to the cattle ranchers who are feeding our nation. You know, it's absolutely incredible just how profoundly different parts we have in Florida and how many of them there are. But, you know, not one of them take for granted what we have in Florida. No matter where you go, they know that Florida is different. They are Florida people, and they understand that what happens in other states, it doesn't happen here. They're not going to get bullied. They're not going to get told to do this or that. We're Florida people. This is our home. We're going to fight for it. You know, I learned a lesson when I was a little kid. We lost our farm. There's an acronym that matters to me, and it's one that I've shared everywhere I go. It's ASNF. A son never forgets. I'll never forget my dad's face when we left that farm. I'll never forget my roots. But that's exactly why we fight. The lesson I learned was this. If you don't fight for what you love, you can lose it. And we don't need any Floridian to have to learn that face first, the way I did, the way my family did. So we've got to fight to protect all that we have right now. There is no better time to fight than now. If not me, then who? If not now, then when?
And you look at Florida, I go to the RNC meetings, people ask me, what is the secret to Florida's success? And I always say it's because we have politicians who campaign and make promises, and when they get elected, they deliver on them.
Yeah.
And I think and people look at me strange. Like, you have those people, and it's like, we have a lot of those people. We have a governor that's delivered on it. We had a legislature that delivered the most conservative agenda. So I think Florida's unique in that setup and that kind of talent. And you see that President Trump has pulled so much talent out of Florida that hopefully changed Washington that way. Where do you see us going as a state now? What's next after, obviously Governor DeSantis has termed out and he'll go out, and we have to continue to fight for these freedoms in Florida. What do you see on the forefront of the next war for the next 8 years?
Sure. So that's a great question, Evan. Hey, I'm Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins. If you like what you're hearing here today on Power Play with Chair Evan, click below, like, follow, and let's continue to talk about all things that matter. Individual freedoms, the free state of Florida, and how blessed we are to live in these great United States. Let's look at the gaps we have, right? 23.5 million people. We have some absolute crazy things. Let's look up to the Northeast, right? It's amazing. In New York City, the city that never sleeps, of all cities, why do we have to learn that Mamdani is an absolute clown, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is not good for our city, our state, that state, or our nation. But what's going to happen, the reciprocal effect of that, when New Yorkers stream to Florida again, he's going to make all of the past mayors look like rock stars, like conservative juggernauts, right? This guy, oh my God, it's heartbreaking to see it happen there. 9/11 changed everything in our country. And for that to happen, it's a moral injury. It's a huge problem for our country. But right here in Florida, what do we do next? We got to build roads, infrastructure. We got to find ways to get people where they're going. We have to have an economy that's built in both depth and breadth to grow jobs across this state. You know, we got to bring manufacturing, bring in more businesses that want to espouse our values and fight for our way of life. We're going to be relentless in the pursuit of excellence. You know, Aristotle put this very simply: excellence isn't a magic thing, right? And I'm paraphrasing, it's a habit. You lay down bricks every day. If you don't settle for less than excellence, you fight for that every moment and every day, then you're going to achieve it more often than not. Nobody's perfect, but you're going to get really close, right? So you have to fight for those values. Here's what we have to do as a party, though. It's all gas, no brakes. We have to be absolutely forward leaning. It's easy to fall back on our laurels. It's easy to say we have a supermajority in both chambers. We have 1.3 million, voter advantage. We're great. Guys, COVID wasn't that long ago. Yeah. Our whole world shifted right then. This was the toss-up state of all toss-up states. We can be right back there. That's a fact.
Yeah, people don't realize, I think in history, it seems like so far ago, but the governor won his first election against Andrew Gillum by 60,000 votes.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine? We'd probably still be wearing masks if Andrew Gillum was the governor.
We'd be San Francisco.
Correct.
I mean, brother, the things that could have happened right here in Florida, right? Frightening.
Yeah, it's amazing when you look at that. And at that point, Democrats had a 400,000 voter advantage. Now we have a almost 4 now voter advantage. So we're moving the ball forward. But I always talk about campaigning like you're 10 points down.
That's right.
Because you have that chance that you've let people off the hook or they don't go to vote. So I think our mission as a party has to be to turn out every voter in every election so that we can continue to send that message forward that every election matters and Florida leads the way in that regard.
Yeah, Evan, that's spot on. You have to turn out every voter. But if you want to change people's minds, you got to step into the lion's den, right? That's what I loved about Charlie Kirk. He did that. He stepped into the lion's den every day with a smile. The last 2 things he talked about were God and love. How incredible, right? But that's the uniting factor of our nation. God has blessed America unlike any other. We have a president who is saying what he means and he's getting things done. We have a governor who has been laying down bricks of excellence over and over and over for 6.5 years. We've got to keep that moving forward all day, every day, twice on Sunday, right? But what does that look like? I want to share an anecdote, and it's something that my wife and I experienced. Tampa was a blue dot. I was running against the mayor of Tampa's mother-in-law, right? Like, this wasn't a home run, you're going to win easily, right? But we won by 10 points. I didn't hide from who I was. I didn't become the pothole guy. I said, I am pro-God, I'm pro-gun, I'm pro-life. This is who I am. This is where I am. I'm going to knock on your door no matter what. I didn't knock a single Republican door. All swing, all Democratic voters. And we moved the tide of that community because people saw us out there. We knocked, as a team, almost 100,000 doors in 5 months. We were relentless. And, we had conversations with angry lesbian couples. It was like a Seinfeld episode, right? You hate us, screaming expletives at us. It's like, why are you so mad? I don't get it, right? We knew it was a don't say gay bill, right? Yeah. It doesn't say any of that, of course. What are you so mad at? And they would follow us down there. We don't want to talk to you. It's like, you're chasing us. Relax. Like, it's okay. Do you want to talk? So we'd have a conversation, right? They said, you don't want us to live. I was like, I don't think you understand this. I want you to vote for me. I want you to live. I need your vote, right? And we go back and forth and we eventually pull out the bill. It's like, you haven't read the bill, have you? Of course I've read the bill. And they're screaming and just anger. And we got them to read the bill. It was back and forth a lot. And they'd read the bill. And they said, this can't be the bill. I was like, it's the bill. We've already said this. It says it's the bill. It's all this, right? It's a bill, right? And they would say, I agree with everything in this. I don't want anyone talking to my 2-year-old or my 2nd grader about sex. I was like, congratulations. You're a conservative. Would you like a yard sign? You know what? They took one.
Okay.
You can reach people if you have the courage to speak the truth, no matter how hard it is, no matter those personal risks that you do. Our nation didn't become what it is because 3 people decided and had a dream. A nation shifted. Conservatives and leaders fought for something that mattered. We're in that same position. Just like I had to learn that you can lose your family farm, we don't need to do that here in Florida. So as you said, it's turning out voters. It's getting people to understand that our uniquely American ideas, ideals, and principles were fought for in Yorktown, defended for generations. And right now we are on the X, we are on the line, and it's our turn to defend that because you have a family. I have a family. So many across the state do. And I want our kids not to have what we have. I want them to have everything I ever dreamed of and so much more. so they can preserve and protect for their kids what we're handing off to them.
Which is the very essence of the American dream.
That's right.
And we've become very good or polarized in our country and very good at communicating with people that we agree with and not good at reaching across the aisle and talking to other people. One of the surprising things from the last election was the number one issue was immigration. And yet in Florida, we won Hispanics by a record number. And people in the national media ask, how can you do this? And for me, it was talking about we're having a conversation about an issue that we all end up agreeing on when we know the facts. Let's talk about a little bit about immigration, because that's become a big topic in Trout. There was a bill that we passed. You were part of that bill.
I was.
How do you think we're doing on implementing President Trump's agenda, and where do you think we go here on immigration in the state of Florida?
We're doing amazing. I wish other governors would take Governor DeSantis' lead in defending and supporting and standing alongside the president. Nobody is doing more to support immigration in this nation than the state of Florida. Our 287G agreements are incredible. I've been out on busts a few times now. I'm a hands-on guy, right? I like to go see and do and understand. Leadership matters. People crave leadership, but you've got to be present. The best ability is availability. Be present, be there, do stuff, right? So what does that look like? I've seen local law enforcement in Southeast Florida. There's not a conservative juggernaut, historically speaking, down there, right? Fighting alongside our highway patrol, with border patrol, with DEA, all working back and forth seamlessly. How amazing is that? That is the example of what good government is, because we have a president who gave an agenda, who gave a path and said, this is what we're going to do. We've got to remind people this isn't a Democratic issue. It's not an independent issue. It's not a Republican issue. It's an American issue. The people across this nation overwhelmingly said, fix illegal immigration. Yes, we are a nation of immigrants. We are a nation of laws, first and foremost. I think about people like my wife's family. They immigrated from Lebanon, a war-torn country. They were Druze, Lebanese, above Beirut, up in the Shuf Mountains. And they came here legally. Not everyone came at once. Some sat there for a long time trying to live the American dream. They came here and they started small businesses and peddled out of suitcases, and they fought to create a life. That's why it matters. Every time people cheat that system, every single time they cut off people who are really trying to live the American dream. And when we talk about this, here's my question to the left. Why do you care more about illegal immigrants than you do an American citizen? I'm here to fight for their rights. I'm here to make sure those don't get usurped, that we don't trample on their rights. Somebody has to stand between the left, the craziness, and the American people. That's what we do. That's what you do. That's absolutely what Florida does. So standing beside the president for immigration, 100% the right thing. We got to keep the gas pedal down and keep leading.
Yeah, you're seeing the government shutdown that's been ongoing. They're holding up opening the government for healthcare coverage for illegal aliens and trying to hide it under other things. It's really frustrating from a standpoint of Florida voters who are like, just open up the government and do their job if they notice the government's not working.
Yeah, not essential parts of the government, right? I've heard Governor DeSantis, man, he is spot on. If it's not essential, all right, man, just cleave that off, right? I will say this, as a guy with one leg, you can only cut certain things before it matters, right? But those are essential parts. 2 legs are essential. Certain things matter, right? But my God, there is so much waste and bloat in the federal government. It truly is. How about rather than kicking a can down the road for a CR, we just do a budget? Let's actually use the purse strings the way our founding fathers intended. Hold people accountable. Stop the theatrics. It's not just illegal immigration. That's one of the issues. Medicaid for all without income verification. Like, oh my God, what are we talking about? You're knocking on the door of socialism right there.
Yep.
People ask why we ran a bill focused on educating communism and socialism. Well, that's why. That one of many reasons, right? It happened.
Mondami, who you mentioned earlier,
oh my God, with a watered down communist to run New York, right? Why do we educate? Because we don't need to learn that here in Florida. We already know.
Yeah, George Will said a good thing about Mondami, I thought, because America needs occasionally socialism and communism and a limited experience so that they can understand exactly how bad it is.
Yep.
And maybe he is that method for the moment.
That's a big limited experience right there.
Correct. But you're going to have in New York, you're going to have someone like Giuliani who comes along afterwards to clean it up, because you see what all he did leading up to 9/11. And then, it's sad that we're going to go back and repeat that cycle.
In the words of LL Cool J, don't call it a comeback, right?
Correct.
Hey, this is Chairman Evan Power. The Republican Party of Florida has a great new tool, allrepublicansvote.com. It is a one-stop shop for voter registration and voter information. Go to allrepublicansvote.com and send all your friends and family there so that they know how to register and vote in Florida elections.
Beyond just immigration, let's talk about the Second Amendment. You talked about it a little bit earlier, but obviously you and I agree that the Second Amendment is written in stone and shouldn't be messed with. Where do we go in Florida to make sure that we enshrine those rights moving forward?
Well, I'm excited to see that the court made the decision they did. We are an open carry state, but we have so many things that we have to work through. Exclusion zones and how that's managed and understood. I have been all over the state over the last couple months. It's one of the things I love about being lieutenant governor. I get to have a relentless approach to talking to people, meeting them where they are, understanding how the issues impact them. We need to provide clarity to our sheriffs, our law enforcement on exactly how this works. And that's something we as a state need to come together and put out there. I know the governor is incredibly articulate. It's one of the things that boggles my mind how he can say so much at once so clearly. He's such a gifted leader. But we have great leaders in the Senate, great leaders in the House. When we all work together to solve those problems, it impacts our communities in a positive light. It really does. I'm so grateful. But I can't wait to provide clarity as a state to those areas, to provide our law enforcement. Just, this is what it says. This is what we feel it means. And this is what you should do, right? This is how it works. That's what we need to do. That's what leadership is.
And we're going to come up on a legislative session. What do you think the issues that are going to come up in legislative session? And what do you think, if you were still in the Senate, what would you be pushing to change?
I would definitely be jumping up and down and waving my leg above my head on 2A issues right now, I can promise, right? Continuing to fight for immigration matters. I think safety and security from a communicative standpoint, from a cyber standpoint, from physical security around our state is incredibly important. The world is frightening. It's only a matter of time before more and more and more things that are used in consistent warfare around the globe are put to play by criminals. It happens in a limited fashion. We'd have to be prepared. We owe our law enforcement the time, the tools, the training, but we often forget about the men and women behind the badge. Their husbands, their wives, their sons, their daughters, they want to go back to their family too. They want to live the American dream. They want to live that right here in the free state of Florida. Property tax is something that I think is definitive. We have so many levers that we can partially pull, but the federal government, they control a lot of what goes on, whether it's inflation or insurance. One of the few things that we can pull and truly affect is property tax. I believe, just as Governor DeSantis does, and I have his back without equivocation on this and everything, that if you can't really own your home if you have to lease it essentially from the government, if you're going to pay property tax. So what we want to do, what I think we should do, is step in and be bold and lead and take care of property tax for those homesteaded properties. Right now, we know it's a de minimis part of the money that comes from property tax. Often it's between 6 and 8%. Some are a little higher, some are a little lower of the property tax budget. He's going to have his plan. It'll roll out here soon. I can't wait for that. And when he does, we'll talk more in depth and breadth of what that's going to be. And it's his to release. And I'm so excited to see that. But that's critical. People are struggling. They are. Insurance is stabilized because of what we did in tort reform, the clarity, the things we've done there. And, rates are coming down. More companies are filing and opening. Rates are coming down. It's great to see. Our auto insurance has stabilized. We're the only state with prices going down in the union. Again, because of what we did. Those have to maintain. We can't shift. We can't roll back. We have to continue to maintain and hold that line. But property tax, that's the tool we have. We're going to put money right back in the pockets of people, because here's the facts. When you have a home, your value doesn't go down. It doesn't. It gets wider and wider and wider over time. And many communities have an addiction, not only to spending, but to increased spending. So when the millage rate goes up, you're getting hit twice. It's getting wider and it's getting taller in terms of the millage rate. So over time, you're paying exponentially more than ever before. We got to stop that. You should own your home free and clear of the government.
And I think ownership in general is probably the thing that this generation's going to fight the hardest. Their attack, Democrats like Carlos Guillermo Smith and Escamani want to attack property rights and limit what landlords can charge in rent. But I think ownership, by and large, will be the issue that defines this generation and their ability to have freedom. Because if you can't own things, that's right, you don't have true freedom.
That's right. You have to own them, right? We don't want to be a land and a nation, a state where the government gives us housing, the government gives you food, because here's the facts. The government always moves the ball. That's just what happens. Government never shrinks. Though in Florida, we're pushing really hard to make that happen, and we are doing an amazing job. But owning your property, having those individual freedoms and standing up for those things, it's incredibly important. And leadership matters. The government's not the solution. The government's caused the problems more often than not, right? Yeah. People are the solution, empowering people, because we know one thing above all else. Our freedoms don't come from the Constitution. They come from God. They're upheld by our Constitution at the federal and state level. That is why our founding fathers were so amazing. We're a republic for a reason. It's not a pure democracy. That's mob rule. A republic, the minority, the majority are both protected from each other, but they're protected from the government as well. There are checks and balances for a reason.
Well, thank you, Governor, for being here with us and having this conversation. I could talk all day with you.
Yeah, I love it.
You know, but thank you for your service and to our country and for your service as Lieutenant Governor. And I look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Likewise, Evan. Thanks for having me on, brother.
Right. Thank you.
See ya. Hey, I'm Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins. If you'd like to find out more information about who I am, why I serve, and what I do in my role as Lieutenant Governor, you can follow us on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook at JCollinsFL. You can do the same thing on LinkedIn and on Truth Social. We encourage you to reach out to our office over in the Office of VOG. We can't solve what we don't know. Looking forward to talking to you. Thanks, and God bless.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins. Please remember to like and subscribe so you can stay tuned on what's happening on Power Play. Also comment below to let us know which Florida leader you want to hear from next. Look forward to seeing you in the future.